Hey guys, it's Mike from OverGround here. Today I'm making this video to kind of go over basically a question that's been asked a lot to us, and that is what is OverGround? So I wrote this big blog post basically on our Facebook page, and I have it here with me for reference, but I'm just gonna go off of memory and go off of some key points to kind of discuss in this video because when we created this channel we never really established who we were, what we wanted to do, what we were coming from, and I'm hoping to kind of use this video as an opportunity to have that conversation with you guys right now. So long story short, well, I mean this video depending on how long it goes, but in the beginning anyway, Overground was registered and created as a business back in 2017, and it was meant to be a game store in our local city here in southwestern Ontario, in Canada. And at the time, there weren't really any other game stores that were open, and the ones that were very small and catered to a very small demographic of gamers. We kind of wanted to flip that on its head and open a bigger game store basically, but we wanted to follow a model of something called the co-working space, and you're going to hear that a lot, and that's going to come up quite a bit, and I'm going to be going into better detail in a little bit. So basically, Overground was created as a gaming hub store, and we were originally picked up by the corporation called Seabrick. CBRIC, which is the Canadian Business Innovation and Research Company. And what they do is that they pick up aspiring businesses and businesses that are starting out, kind of invest in their potential and help kind of guide them towards, with planning and developing their skill set, developing their brand, developing whatever. And then they essentially act as backers or investors in the beginning as we kind of get on our feet. So Seabrick is basically, it's also a co-working space, and they ran a co-working space called R City, the letter R, then the word city. And what this co-working space was imagine your typical office setting, like with cubicles and whatnot, like anything you'd see out of a standard like office sitcom or anything like Dilbert, for example. But kind of remove the walls of the cubicles themselves and imagine that everyone that's working on that floor is helping each other out grow their own independent individual businesses. So what a co-working space is essentially one centralized place where, although every one in individual sections or rooms or cubicles would have you run and operate their own individual business, everyone kind of cross-pollinates with one another and gets to be a part of everyone else's business on the floor. It also allows for common use of equipment without having to pay any excessive startup costs. So, for example, if you needed to use a green screen or a 3D printer or a high resolution camera or anything like that, that would all be on hand in the co-working space, and that way you would be able to take advantage of those materials without necessarily having to spend out of pocket to pick them up yourself. And this is good for starting businesses because you don't actually have a lot of capital right out of the gate. So this is good to help with things like creating advertising and just getting a general like working space office right out of the gate. The reason we wanted to kind of model our business off of that is because this is where our roots were in this co-working space. So Overground kind of became as a pipe dream between actually, I don't really think you've seen Adam on camera yet, but you've heard his voice in the background a couple times in some videos. So Adam is part of this team. Shane, you've seen him on deck profiles as well. He's part of this team. And there's a couple other members that kind of dip in and out depending on context. But for the purpose of this video, the three of us, Shane, Adam, and myself, are kind of the core members of Overground at this time. And when we wanted to start our business, we kind of did it backwards, I guess, compared to most game stores. We wanted to be able to have the opportunity to build up events and build up the community first before we even looked into building a brick and mortar space for an actual store. So this was part and parcel to gauge interest on what events would be the most popular, because we didn't want to invest too heavily in games that might not have too big of a following or not earn enough interest, and we didn't want to sit with stale stock. So we wanted to kind of build up events first and figure out which events would draw in the most crowds, so that way we could have an idea of what to kind of tailor our business or our store towards when we finally opened up. And the reason I keep mentioning that we are modeled after the co-working space is that we wanted our business to kind of feel all inclusive. So, some stores you walk into, you've got your section in the back corner for Yu-Gi-Oh! You've got your section in the back corner for Magic, your section in the back corner for Dungeons and Dragons. Everything kind of felt kind of sectioned off, and we didn't really like that approach to a game store. We wanted everyone to be able to, again, cross-pollinate, kind of, pick a little bit over here, pick a little bit over here, pick a little bit over here. And we wanted everyone, especially our staff, to kind of be engaging enough to understand so many games to the point where we could have anyone who walked into our store be able to be welcomed and open and invited to play any game that they saw or had any interest in. And the reason we selected the name OverGround was because we felt that there was kind of this seedy, underground, underbelly, kind of secret society feeling to a lot of games. And, especially with certain competitive games, when you're new or unfamiliar with the game, it's easy to be called, oh, you're a scrub, or you're this, or you're a newbie, or anything like that. And you lose a lot of respect. And we felt that we didn't want to have that secret underground kind of, you need to be part of that group mentality when it came to our store. So we chose the name Overground, and we chose the logo that we did. This is our business card here. So it's supposed to look like a stadium, and the entire idea behind the stadium and the name Overground is that we were above ground. We were above the secrecy. We were above the dark underbelly, and we were in public and plain view to see, and that we wanted to be a Coliseum setting where, kind of like Roman gladiators, where people could come in and spectate. But if you chose to be a part of the arena, we would give you the tools and the weapons and the training and the knowledge necessary to kind of take part in those fights. And we wanted our store to feel kind of all-inclusive when it came to any sort of gamer, any sort of player, and any sort of game. So that's kind of where Overground X co-working space comes into play. So with that in mind, we started out our business by running events. So this is kind of how we got our foot in the door originally. So again, this is back in 2017, and the main group of us, our big passion was in Yu-Gi-Oh! So that's kind of where we shifted our focus to originally. And we started to run a Yu-Gi-Oh! Event first to kind of gauge interest, see how many people in the community actually still played, because it had been a while since we all kind of got together and as a group. Our last card store that ran Yu-Gi-Oh! Had closed about 3 or 4 years prior to that. So it had been a while since the core Yu-Gi-Oh! Group in the city had actually been able to get back together, and we were unsure if maybe there were new players or anyone that was interested about the game, curious about the game, had thought about it, never got a chance to really pick up a deck or look at any cards and play. We wanted to kind of invite the whole gauntlet and run our first event and kind of test out our theory of, we were here, we were willing to help, we were willing to teach, willing to foster new relationships, build up the community, etc., etc. So we went pretty hard on our first event, and we actually advertised in Facebook and other means, and we ended up getting about, but I want to say just about over 25 people, maybe closer to 30. It was a pretty big event right out of the gate, considering it was mostly all local people and from neighboring communities. So that was a really good jumping point to kind of get us to know, A, how many people were interested in Yu-Gi-Oh!, but B, how many people were looking for a place to play. Because again, at this time, there weren't very many game stores open that allowed people to get together and play games other than like Magic the Gathering, for example. So we started running Yu-Gi-Oh! Tournaments weekly, a couple times a week. That branched out to Pokemon tournaments, and then Magic the Gathering tournaments, and then Super Smash Brothers tournaments, and then we even got a little bit of Star Wars Destiny in there. Basically, we put it out to the city and the community, and everyone said, hey, if you have a game you want to play, if there's any interest in running events and tournaments, do you have a group of friends that want to get together and play, let us know. We'll start something. We'll see how many people we can get in the door, and we'll just start running those events on a regular basis. We even got a little bit of Dragon Ball Super. Unfortunately, that just did not get as many people as I hoped it would. But but anyway, so at the time we had about maybe 6 or 7 games on the go, all running out of this one little co-working space that we were able to rent out at our leisure to run these events whenever we wanted. And it was great. Everything was running great. We were able to use the entry fees that we were collecting to buy prizes. Then we were able to kind of supply better pricing and entry packs and other incentives to people coming to play. We would run anniversary tournaments. We would run special event tournaments. We would maybe run like a couple box tournaments here and there. And anyway, so Yu-Gi-Oh! Always maintained our most popular game. And the reason I say that is because the co-working space ended up getting so popular that other businesses started moving in and started using the space, and that kept eating up our availability on the calendar to rent it and use it to run events. So what ended up happening is that originally something that was like maybe 2 or 3 times during the week got relegated to specifically weekends, and then that got relegated to specifically Sundays, and that got relegated to specifically Sundays at 1 p.m. specifically. And what ended up happening is that we had to keep cutting events from our schedule and had to keep kind of alienating and ostracizing a bunch of different people in the community that we had worked so hard to build up. So now we had to make a choice. Well, we can only have the space from a certain time on this day. What should we run? And we ended up just kind of sticking exclusively with Yu-Gi-Oh!, which I know was a kick in the pants to everyone else. And if you're watching this and you're a part of our early beginnings, I do apologize, but unfortunately that was kind of the decision we made because that was the most popular game that drew in the most people, and that's all we could do given the circumstances of the space and the time that we had. And this went on for about a year and a half. Until at the tail end of that year and a half, that's when we finally ended up getting kind of squeezed out into that time slot. But in that year and a half, we were constantly on the look for brick and mortar stores to actually lease out or rent out or whatever and actually start building up our store properly. And we kept constantly getting undercut. Either someone would steal a lease out from under us, we would get outbid, we would be constantly on waiting lists and waiting to hear back from people just to find out that they had sold it to somebody else. And then during that time frame, in that year and a half, other game stores in the city were actually able to pop up because they had the capital at the time and we necessarily didn't. And everyone kind of gravitated over there instead. Which, I mean, no bad blood or anything like that. I mean, that's just how it goes. That's business. But it just kind of sucked that it was one step back further for us that we would have liked to have. So we were in a situation where our availability was drained, the market was changing, and we just could not get our foot in the door across the board. So we ended up trying to pivot our business to be, instead of aiming to build up that store, because we had so much success making events, we wanted to become basically a company that ran events. You would book us, we would book a place, and then we would run your gaming event for you. And we did that for about another year, which leads us into just the start of 2019 now, I guess. So in the start of 2019, we had actually secured a straight brick and mortar location that we were going to use. And in that time, the Bakugan reboot had just kind of sprung up. And we thought, well, hey, let's take advantage of this. Because not a lot of people knew about Bakugan originally, and those who did were excited for the reboot. And we thought to ourselves, hey, we could be the first people to advertise Bakugan events and be the first people in town to run them. And so we decided to start a YouTube channel to try to advertise that fact. And we kind of just hit the ground running. We just went right out of the gate and just filmed matches and filmed deck broadcasts and everything like that. And we never actually took the time to introduce who we were, what we wanted to do, everything like that. We were just like, bam, Bakugan, let's go. And we kind of just jumped on the BakuTuber bandwagon. And the reason we did that was because BakuTubing as a idea was so new that we felt it was easier to kind of be part of that community and potentially build ourselves up through that than trying something out like Yugi Tubing, for example, because the community there was so large and the market for that was so competitive that it was going to be way, way, way harder for us to kind of get our foot in the door and get ourselves exposed that way. So we felt Bakugan. It was brand new. We could start it from scratch. We could follow the progression of the game along with our channel, and we could grow with it. And then naturally, we could just kind of become, hopefully, one of the go-to channels for Bakugan. And unfortunately, by about the middle of 2019, that's when everything kind of took a turn for the worse with Spin Master, and the distribution in Canada started to kind of rear its ugly head, and we started to see how badly it actually was. And as of this recording, there has still not been any public full-on releases in Canada for anything past the Battle Brawlers card set. So that means we have not seen Resurgence in stores. We have not seen Age of Warless in stores. We have not seen Fusion Force in stores. We will probably not see any Shields of Destroya in stores. And to that effect, we also were way behind on the toy waves. I think we're just kind of scraping, I want to say wave 2 or 3 of Armored Alliance right now in October of 2020. So that kind of put a hamper on our plan, and we kind of took a step back and said, well, you know what? Bakugan's not working. Now what do we do? So as soon as kind of 2020 started rolling around, that's when we started realizing, well, you know what? Let's go back to our roots. Yu-Gi-Oh was a big thing for us, and that was kind of one of our favorite games. That was one of our big passion projects. Maybe we should start pivoting the channel around Yu-Gi-Oh content. And at that time, the Digimon card game had just kind of been announced and was coming out in Japan, and we were thinking, well, you know what, that's awesome, because I don't know if you can tell, but I absolutely love Digimon. It's one of my favorite brands. It's one of my favorite franchises. It means so much to me, and I'll probably make another video kind of going into great detail of how much it means to me, what the impact it had on my life and everything. And I understand the irony of talking about Digimon while wearing an Eevee shirt. But yeah, so I spent almost 4 hours yesterday kind of organizing this entire desk and setting up this Digimon backdrop, which is going to be a segue into what comes later. So 2020, Digimon card game gets announced. We decide that we want to pivot the channel to be more Yu-Gi-Oh focused. The problem was that the place that we were using as the potential brick and mortar store, that kind of became our studio. And we had all this equipment because Adam was using the original co-working space as a videography business as well. So he had, camera and editing equipment and computers and microphones and all this good production quality that we felt that we could bring to BakuTubing right out of the gate. And we figured, we can pivot that towards Yu-Gi-Oh! And even though we know that the Yu-Gi tubing market is so competitive, we thought that maybe our production quality might actually just be able to kind of carry us. But then, unfortunately, COVID hit, and we lost that space for good. And by losing that space, we also lost our ability to store that equipment and to use that equipment properly. And that led to just this giant downhill spiral of the entire OverGround name and brand. And we all just kind of, again, took a step back and walked away from it. And we said, you know what, maybe this just isn't for us. Maybe we're going to give up on opening a store. We're going to give up on creating content. We're going to give up on all this stuff because, yeah, it just, we kept getting hit with bad luck, unfortunately. So now that the Digimon card game is getting localized and it's coming to North America and it's coming in English, I kind of had this enlightenment, I guess, and this reinvigorated sense of wanting to do this again, because I enjoyed making videos. I enjoyed taking the time to build decks and talk about competitive aspects of it, and talk about the metagame, and talk about the different interactions, and filming those matches and editing those matches and getting those matches up on the channel for you guys to see, and sharing it with the community and with Reddit and everything like that. So what BakuTubing gave me was kind of a blueprint of how I'd like to handle this channel moving forward. And right now, I think it's in our best interest to pivot to Digimon content. Not only because it has a special place in my heart, but because we can take that passion and that energy that we had originally had towards Bakugan, because Bakugan was such a new game, and we can transplant that into the Digimon card game. And at least for now, we can kind of ride the wave of the Digimon card game and grow with it as it grows. And that way we can now get our foot in the door in, I guess, digitubing? Is that the right word? So, yeah, that's kind of what the purpose of this video is, to show you guys kind of where we came from, what our goals were, why we haven't really been active for a long time, and kind of what we hope to do with this channel. Now, I mean, as you can see, this isn't the greatest setup right now. I'm literally sitting in front of my desk in my bedroom. It's late at night. I don't even have any sunlight, and the lighting in here is terrible, and I'm using a phone to film this, so the production quality is already off to a crap start. But at least for the time being, now that I've kind of got this more focused energy towards how I want to handle the channel, I can record these videos more comfortably, knowing that there are better things to come. And, like we've already secured other locations that we can start filming Digimon content. We can look into doing live streams. We can look into doing better testing. And we're already looking at creating proxies for the game in a fun and unique way that I hope, I don't think anyone else has done yet. But it's something that we're quite fond of and we're quite proud of, and we're going to be posting a tutorial on how to make your own proxies the way that we've done them. So we hope that everyone will enjoy that, and we're going to be using these for the time being to kind of talk about the game, talk about the meta, talk about the strategies that we've loved and enjoyed and have found comfort with. And we're going to be kind of practicing and testing out matches and kind of getting a feel for the game ourselves, because we're going to be so new to it too. So not only is the channel going to grow and evolve with the game, but us as players will also grow and evolve with the game simultaneously. So I appreciate everyone who stuck around thus far and listened to everything that I've had to say. I look forward to taking this journey with you guys, and I look forward to kind of not only getting back on the horse in terms of YouTubing, but also back on the horse in terms of my favorite franchise, my favorite brand. I love talking about Digimon. I love being a part of this franchise that's been in my life for 20 years. And I'm glad that my love for card games and my love for Digimon have kind of intersected now and given me kind of a better purpose on how to move forward with this channel and my passion for it. So again, thank you guys for watching. I look forward to providing you guys with, well, all of us, our entire team, look forward to providing you guys with good Digimon content in the future. So, again, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.